all, like you said, I think we all remember how stressful or rigorous school was or college was for us at one point or another. And I think it was stressful whether you were a good student, whether you were an average student, whether you were a poor student, for different reasons. If you're a good student, there was a lot of pressure to continue to do well, to outdo your classmates, to perform consistently. And if you're a poor student like me, it was stressful for a whole number of other reasons because you are constantly trying. And for me, I was a poor student not for lack of trying. I tried really, really hard. 2 years in a row, I got the best effort medal in school. So I tried really hard, but that particular type of learning just wasn't for me. It wasn't my strong suit. And had I equated my entire self-worth, which I did at that time, with how I was performing in those numbers, it was a very poor situation for my mental health. I didn't do very well with that. So I think it's just really important for us to have this conversation, for us to talk about what it means to students, the pressures of school, the pressures of college, what it does to your mental health, and how we can't just constantly keep equating, like you said, our self-worth with that number. And I really truly believe that the scars that we collect in youth are the ones that tend to stay. So it's very important for us to not put students and children in situations like that as much as we can. So I just think it's a really important conversation for us to be having.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to see so many faces. Should I be speaking in Hindi, English? How are you all comfortable? If I reach your hearts faster through Hindi, I wouldn't even mind speaking in Hindi. Yet enough, I want to tell you, I'm here because I've been a mental health professional supporting the cause of student mental health since the last 35 years. I began my journey from Delhi as a student myself, having been through the pressures during those times, 3 decades back, to what it is a situation now. And we were just having a chat, how difficult life has become and how competitive it's become now is something where mental health has to take the front seat. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you all and say that though the face has been changing, yet enough, it is really essential that we all together stand up to this cause and support it. And school mental health has been my forte. Though I'm a clinical psychologist and I support clinical issues too, but going to schools, propagating it to the student body and then to the parent body is what actually is my future goal till the time I live. Thank you.
I feel parents have a lot of power over how children are. And if we can convince even one parent to stress the child lesser, and for that child to be happier, have less anxiety, I think we'll be able to make a difference. And I'd like to speak about how I was a child and I was very bad at studies. And I used to believe absolutely that I won't be able to do anything in life. But well, clearly that's not true. And I could only understand that because there were certain people who believed in me in a certain way, who were not my parents. And that actually helped. So if I got that belief from my parents, that would be so different and so supporting. So the whole motive of me doing this or speaking here today is that if one of you also can be kinder, nicer, not saying that parents are not nice and kind to their children, but just more compassionate. And if it helps your children and you, that would be great for me.
I mean, it's a great cause, right? That in itself is a reason enough to be part of it. But just like MTV, we also have a lot of young people as our consumers. We speak to a lot of young people through our social media channels. And it's just about spreading a message. And actually more than a message, an awareness about an issue which is actually like very crucial. We are most impressionable at that age. So it's very important to send the right message across to educate people. And yeah, we try to help in whatever way we can. And on a personal level, something very close to me as well. I mean, I've been through all those phases in my student life. So yeah, I totally get it. And yeah, happy to help and spread the right message.
It was never a plan. I never planned to talk about it. But I think what I realized one day was how, literally the way that I first talked about my mental health was I was having a really, really terrible day, and I was lying in bed and I was looking for a picture to post on Instagram because I was having social media FOMO and I was like, I haven't posted something in a while, I should post something. And everything I was looking for was a happy picture. Everything I was looking for was completely at odds with how I was actually feeling. So I said, you know what, let me actually talk about how I'm feeling, because all we do constantly, what do you do? What's the first thing you do when somebody says, hey, how are you? Reflex, I'm good. I'm good. That's your reflex. Your reflex is I'm good. You're not actually answering the question. A, you don't think anyone's actually asking.
Yes.
But B, you're also not actually answering the question. We're constantly, I feel like we are all wearing masks all of the time. And they're just, it's how we're conditioned to be. And I realized I was just spending a lot of time and a lot of energy pretending to be something that I wasn't. So the first time I actually talked about my mental health in public, I was flabbergasted, honestly, by how many people would text me, call me, and say, listen, I have the exact same thing, I'm feeling the exact same way. I got so many messages from people saying, oh my God, I saw this post of yours and I talked to my parents for the first time about going to therapy. And once you share how you're actually feeling, you realize that you're not alone in that. We all think that our fears and our insecurities are just us and we're the only ones who feel that way, but that's because we don't talk to other people about it. As soon as you open up and talk to someone, you realize everybody is feeling something, everyone is going through something, everyone is hurting in some way or the other. So I think it was just really important for me to just start to have that conversation personally for myself. It was partially a selfish thing. I wanted to stop hiding. I wanted to stop expending energy on pretending to be something that I wasn't. Because once I stopped doing that, I could actually focus on how I was feeling. So when somebody says, hey, how are you now? I say, not so good. It's okay. I didn't sleep very well last night. I'm not doing very well. And not everyone can really deal with that. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, but I feel better doing it. So yeah, I think it was just really important for me to start having an honest discourse and an honest conversation. And I can't stress this enough, it's completely changed my life. It was never a plan. I never planned to talk about it. But I think what I realized one day was how, literally the way that I first talked about my mental health was I was having a really, really terrible day. And I was lying in bed and I was looking for a picture to post on Instagram. Because I was having social media FOMO and I was like, I haven't posted something in a while, I should post something. And everything I was looking for was a happy picture. Everything I was looking for was completely at odds with how I was actually feeling. So I said, you know what, let me actually talk about how I'm feeling, because all we do constantly, what do you do? What's the first thing you do when somebody says, hey, how are you? Reflex, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. That's your reflex. Your reflex is I'm good. You're not actually answering the question. A, you don't think anyone's actually asking.
Yes.
But B, you're also not actually answering the question. We're constantly, I feel like we are all wearing masks all of the time. And they're just, it's how we're conditioned to be. And I realized I was just spending a lot of time and a lot of energy pretending to be something that I wasn't. So the first time I actually talked about my mental health in public, I was flabbergasted, honestly, by how many people would text me, call me, and say, listen, I have the exact same thing. I'm feeling the exact same way. I got so many messages from people saying, oh my God, I saw this post of yours and I talked to my parents for the first time about going to therapy. And once you share how you're actually feeling, you realize that you're not alone in that. We all think that our fears and our insecurities are just us and we're the only ones who feel that way, but that's because we don't talk to other people about it. As soon as you open up and talk to someone, you realize everybody is feeling something, everyone is going through something, everyone is hurting in some way or the other. So I think it was just really important for me to just start to have that conversation personally for myself. And it was partially a selfish thing. I wanted to stop hiding. I wanted to stop expending energy on pretending to be something that I wasn't. Because once I stopped doing that, I could actually focus on how I was feeling. So when somebody says, hey, how are you now? I say, not so good. It's okay. I didn't sleep very well last night. I'm not doing very well. And not everyone can really deal with that. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, but I feel better doing it. So yeah, I think it was just really important for me to start having an honest discourse and an honest conversation. And I can't stress this enough, it's completely changed my life. For this campaign?
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking about my own journey as a student, and how much turmoil you can go through as a student, because when you're in school and college, I think what we all don't realize is that it becomes your whole life. It becomes your whole life because that's the environment you're in day in and day out. It becomes your parents' whole life because also that's the environment they see you in day in and day out. And I think it's very easy to forget that school and college life is a part of your entire life. It's not the entirety of it. It's a facet of it. It's one part of it. And I think the reason that there's so much depression and there's so much anxiety in students is because as students you can't see past that. You don't know, you can't envision what your life is going to look like in 5 or 10 or 15 years. As adults we can do that. I can look 5 years into the future because I kind of know, I've had a lot of experiences. As a student you don't know in 5 years what your life is going to look like. So the environment that you're in becomes your entire world. So doing badly in school or not doing as well as you want to in school becomes earth-shattering. It becomes a really huge problem. So for me, it was just thinking about how stressful that can be for a student. And I just think like I said, it's a really important conversation for us to start having. What education is, what we define education as, what we want it to be, how we want to shape education. It's so much more than just learning history and geography. It's, your education encompasses who you become as a person, who you want to be as a person, and what we define success as. So these are all things that I was kind of thinking about. I mean, my whole family and my friends, we talk about it very frequently. It's a very big part of our lives. Like it is a big part of everybody's life. We all have a mind, therefore we all have mental health. And our mental health changes from day to day. It's a dynamic thing. Some days it's better than others. So it's just a very open dialogue that I have with everybody in my family and all of my friends. We like to talk about how we're feeling. We check in with each other about how we're doing on a daily basis. If not a daily basis, as often as we can. And yeah, it's something that you have to work at, and that's something that we really try to do.
The way our board used to have a lot of emphasis on marks. Like I told you that I've been working as an educationist for the last 30 years, 35 years, from where we were to now the emphasis being on life skills and skill development. It's become an integral part of school education system. So it's the parents now. Now it's the ball's in your court. You need to emphasize that when skill subjects are available, skill development can be done. We must actually all together go in for it. Because see, it's tailor-made. It's the easier way. The higher marks, higher level jobs are available. If you all are sitting here today to see us talk as panelists, I must tell you that Arushi even happens to be my daughter. And I've been a very unconditional parent who has never forced mental health onto her as a profession, but she's propagating mental health all the time, totally out of her choice. They were never told to do subjects which would get them high up and help them earn a lot of money or get on to a level which was highly superior and good. But this is what they chose. This was their journey. And throughout schooling and college, I never ever forced them to do anything. What I propagate, I did it for both my kids. And they both are successful individuals today. So there are a lot of options. As parents, you all need to open your eyes. Do not continue to blame the education system. The education system has given us a lot. CBSE is changing things. CI is there, IB is there. A lot of courses are there now. So more variety, lot of availability. The choice is yours along with your kid. Sit and choose the right thing.
Aligned for the previous thing. So we're talking about changing education systems, right? But who actually makes systems? It's if we teach our kids in the right way and parent them in this way where marks don't matter, hopefully some of our kids will be making the education system and changing that bar of marks. But obviously any change like that has lasted for many years will take time. And this is just one tier of it.
Very honestly, I feel like I was told all the things I needed to be told. I was very lucky to have parents who, like I said, did not emphasize top scoring as, a thing to really strive for. They just effort. All they kind of talked to me about was effort. As long as you put in the effort, the outcome, whatever the outcome is fine. But I mean, I think the conversation that I wish that had been had with me is the larger conversation about what success actually means and what, the options that were available to me, because I was never academically inclined. I was like, I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not going to pursue economics. I'm not going to do any of these things. So why do I really need to study as well? Past a point, because once you stop, you're not doing very well, you lose interest as well. But, it's literally in the last maybe 10 years of my life that there's so many interests I have outside of the things that I learned in school. That I want to pursue courses on and workshops on and things like that. So I think I just wish that I had, which I think kids are having a lot more of these days. There's a lot more counseling in terms of, what your options are and where you can go and the various things you can do. But I think I wish there was a larger conversation about what it actually means to be a successful person. This event?
This initiative, yeah.
Oh, I think it's very important because it's literally one of the first steps in having a conversation that we really, really need to have. And again, thank you MTV for actually doing this because, like we've all talked about, it takes a lot of different, you have to take one small step in the right direction and eventually you get to where you need to go. And having conversations with parents like this, hopefully parents will then talk to their children will then talk to each other, they will then talk to, counselors, to talk to their teachers. It has a ripple effect, every little bit has a ripple effect and it'll eventually take us in the right direction. So I think this is a very, very, very important start that we're making.
Thank you so much, MTV. And this is the second event I'm attending with them. The first one was my video, which I'd shared a few days back, and it was played also on Saturday last. And presently, I am working as Additional Director General, Traffic Police in Maharashtra. So regarding today's topic, I think this is relevant, important, and we must talk about it. If we don't, I think that will be the injustice we will be doing. As a parent also, and as children also, as students also, there has to be an interaction amongst us. My wife is also an IAS officer, and my dad was a police officer. Why I'm telling this background is that how to interact with your children, what we should do. There are expectations from parents that our child should become something what we feel. But why do we feel so? Like in my case, I am an engineer, and after doing my graduation from Delhi College of Engineering, I was working for 3 years for 1 year as in private sector, then in public sector. Then ultimately I thought, because my background was, I was born and brought up in a police colony, I had this in mind that I should become a police officer. Then I tried, and in '96 I became a police officer. I married to an IAS officer, so both the IAS and IPS at home. Many people feel that why they ask me also, and my wife also, why didn't you ask your children to become a bureaucrat? Important question. I always tell them that what we had decided that it is their choice. So my daughter, but one thing we did was, whatever they were deciding or whatever we wanted them to do, we had a very good communication at home, me and my wife. One was good parent, one was bad parent at times, one was pressurizing and the other was pacifying. So this had been our game plan. And but one thing was there that I always wanted both my children to be participating in sports. Why sports? Because that will give them a good standing. Their mental health and their physical health would be very important in their progression in life. And this is what they did. My daughter, she has played and won about 12 medals in swimming at nationals. And my son has also played tennis at state and then the national and international level also. People ask me why. I feel that sports plays an important role. And in my case also, why I'm saying maybe self-propagation, but I think that must be told. As ma'am told that we are leaders at home. I have done my Ironman, and Ironman, I don't know whether you know it or not.
Wow.
This is a 526 kilometers of activity, which includes 4 kilometers of swimming initially in cold water. I mean, difficult. Then after 4 kilometers of swimming, you do 180 kilometers of cycling. And after you've done this cycling, you run for 42 kilometers. So this was a challenge, and I was doing this with my daughter at the age of 18, and I was 50 years. Both of us were doing in France. She failed in her first attempt. But she again tried, and after 2.5 months, she goes alone to Australia and finished this task. At the age of 18. Mind you, she became the youngest Asian to do it. Why I'm telling this is, we generally don't discuss all these things. And I'm a firm believer that sports plays an important role in our life. We only run about marks. We only tell our children that they should secure these many marks. Trust me, I don't remember my 10th class marks today. But I passed my IPS exam. I became a police officer. Why I'm telling this is that every individual personality is different. Their mindset is different. How they should be important or how they would stand in the society is more important in life. Today we feel, and in fact about 20 days back, I had a talk which I have posted on my YouTube channel about this topic only. Why this is happening in Kota. So about 15 to 20 children, they were losing their lives. Why? Because they were pressurized, because they were asked by their parents that you have to come back after you are getting exam in either passing NEET or JEE. This is wrong, I think. Making them strong mentally is more important and physically is more important, because there are more venues available today. So they can be on any, they can choose any stream of study academically, and that freedom should be given to them. I believe that if they become strong in these areas, they would be able to perform better. In fact, Three Idiots movie is the best example. You see, I see that movie many times, even today, whenever I feel bored, because it gives a beautiful message to all of us. Please think about it. And all the students who are sitting here, my request to you would be, do your best. Whatever you want to. Be relaxed. Even if you don't get 98%, 99%, or whatever, doesn't matter tomorrow. There are people who could not do well in studies academically, but they are today they are the CEOs of big companies because they were good in other things. They were good in HR. They were able to express themselves better communication-wise and all these things. So all these things are important, and we must tell our children he or she should know their why they want to do a particular thing. We could be good friends with our children, and that will give them a good pathway. And if they are good citizens, I think they will do good. And that is why I want to thank MTV for taking up this issue and discussing it openly. I think this needs to be done. We must open up. We must talk. Thank you so much.
At home, we may provide a very safe environment to our children, but the outside world may not be the same. We as parents need to prepare them to deal with the challenges in the outside world. And once they're faced with it, if they're still in trouble, there is counseling available. We need to open up our minds and seek help. Taking counseling is not a weakness. As a parent, you can also seek help and let your kids seek help if it is a requirement. Another one more point which comes up when Sir is talking. Yes, we were clapping on the achievements of his children too. But sometimes children may not achieve the way we do. They may have a lot of array of interests. Choosing the right profession, the right career, reaching the right path happens slowly. Sometimes it may not happen till they grow up. But then they are not a failure. They may be very happy the way they are. And we must respect that as parents. Okay?
I agree with you, ma'am. One more point for parents and for children. My wife always say, and I also believe so, we should be the first person to know what is going in our children's mind. and we should always be there. You see, whatever meeting I am attending, wherever I am, if my child calls, I take a break, I listen to her or him and respond. Because they should have that much trust that when I am calling, if I'm in any trouble, my parents would be the best support for me. I think that's very important for everybody.
So that trust doesn't happen because you'll tell your kid to trust them, okay? It happens over time, and it happens when you can be safe enough. That means if your child calls you up and they're in trouble, and your first response is to scold them, or be mean to them, or tell them how they could do something like that, they aren't going to call you up the next time. Right? So you need to be like, okay, I'm very glad you called me. We can have a conversation about it later. And if they're calling you, or if they're telling you stuff in trust, you can't use it against them when you're having conversations with them. Or you're saying, acha, so your marks came less because you know that thing you told me about, that is a distraction. So you can't do that. And like Sir rightly said, that his children have achieved so much. We also need to understand that academic pressure is one thing. Achieving stuff in other things can also be pressurizing.
True.
And
Very true.
therefore, you need to talk to your child about how they are feeling while they're doing activities and are they feeling stressed or not. If your children don't feel safe enough to tell you that they're stressed, they're not going to tell you. They're going to go outside the house. So that's why you need to reflect if your child is actually talking to you.